What's going on, guys? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ. Fire content only. Back again, bringing the heat. And week one is in the books. There's some injury recap we need to cover and iron out of what to do, which will leak into the waiver wire pickups. The guys that need to go get picked up, put on your roster, not necessarily put into your starting lineup. Let's make that clear. Just because you pick a guy up off the waiver wire doesn't mean he automatically jumps into your starting lineup. Got to look at the matchups, got to look at what happened in week one, and got to look at overall just what's the plan of the actual initial injury. For instance, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, Elijah Mitchell, a lot we're going to cover today, and happy to be talking football, real football. No more preseason. We're here. Week one is in the books. We're looking ahead to week two, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right into the episode. So we're back again. Make sure you guys like and subscribe the video. Please show some love. The likes definitely help, motivates me to come back to bring the heat. And I thank all my new subscribers who just subscribed last week for week one and showed so much support. Listen, we're here for week two. Let's get this money. Now, jumping into the injury recap, let's get into the veggies. I hate talking about injuries, man. It's the worst part of fantasy when guys go down with injuries and then they're going to miss X amount of time. That's the hard part of finding out who to replace. I'm going to start with Keenan Allen, man. Keenan Allen went out mid-game with a short turnaround coming up the Thursday night game. I do not think he's going to be able to make that game. But if he does, it's still a gamble. You're risking it. You know what I mean? If you're putting him into your starting lineups with this hamstring injury. So the guy that you should be targeting, which I don't think he'll be available on the waiver wire, but if he is, if that slight chance that he is, Josh Palmer, wide receiver for the Chargers. Listen, he's definitely a guy that is the next man up. He's looking to get heavily involved. And shout out to Justin Herbert, giving him a shout out, saying, hey, a guy you need to be looking out for, directly saying to the fantasy community, has to be Joshua Palmer. He's going to see a lot more targets. So that guy is definitely in line for a bigger workload. And I definitely feel as though Joshua Palmer can pop up in some starting lineups coming up next week with the short turnaround. People get antsy. And if you're in the pickle where you're dealing with a lot of injuries right now already into week one, or guys who are just a complete bust in week one, hey, I'm willing to throw Josh Palmer in the starting lineup just based on Justin Herbert being the starting quarterback, being a guy in a high-power offense. Josh Palmer can easily see 7 to 8 targets. Now, obviously, Mike Williams is still there, but Mike Williams didn't show up last week. He's known for this, you know what I mean? But week one, starters are just getting the rust off. It's basically their preseason game, but week two, we'll be looking ahead to better days. Now, I want to move on to Chris Godwin. Very unfortunate for him to deal with injury, coming back from injury, and it's like, oh, come on, man. What else? But, you know, we got to move on. Next man up mentality, especially when it comes to this fantasy, man. I definitely think Chris Godwin, he's going to miss several weeks. He's going to be out for some time. So you need a guy that replace. And again, another guy that's probably not available for you, but I'm speaking to the people who have Russell Gage on their rosters already that went into draft day and stashed him, even with the addition of Julio Jones. You know, I applaud you guys for sticking strong, not dropping him or trading him, but Russell Gage has an 89% rostership. And this is even with, you know, people already going into the offense with Tom Brady, you know, the questions of Gronk is coming back if Julio Jones is washed. Julio Jones isn't washed, by the way, but listen, 89% rostership. It's going to be hard for you to find him out on the waiver wire. But like I said, if he's there for you in your league, pick him up because you're going to need that plug and play into that slot position. They got the Saints coming up. And last time Tom Brady was in New Orleans, he actually put up a lot of fantasy points, put up 45 fantasy points with Chris Godwin leading the march in those targets. He had 13 targets. So that plug and play I want to highlight is the slot position. Russell Gage will be plugged and play into that slot position while Julio Jones, Mike Evans on the side. And it looks like Tom Brady targeted the slot position a lot that game against the Saints. Chris Godwin led with 13 targets in that game. So we're looking at Russell Gage, who ran 18 routes last week. He was on the field once Chris Godwin went down. Only 2 targets, 2 catches, which isn't anything too crazy, but 10 of those routes were in the slot position. So I'm leaning towards Russell Gage to be a plug and play, to be the missing link, you know, in that offense. But you got to look at it, man. Tom Brady's going to be spreading that ball around. Russell Gage has an opportunity to pop up and put up some points. I mean, double-digit points are definitely in his favor. So moving on. I'm kind of gassed, man. But anyway, moving on to this San Francisco 49ers. Now, this backfield was already a headache. I mean, it's always going to be a headache with Kyle Shanahan. But listen, Elijah Mitchell out for 2 months with a knee injury, which is pretty nasty. We had a lot of faith. I say we, as in me and my friends, had a lot of faith in Elijah Mitchell, but he's just not durable, man. Maybe he's not ready for this workload. Maybe he's going to have to play, 1A, 1B with the whoever next man up with the running backs, because I don't think he can handle a full workload to stay healthy for an entire season. So next man up, it's between Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason, Tyron Davis-Price. Now, you're probably looking at Davis-Price. He didn't start, week one. He wasn't active, which is fine. They activated Jordan Mason just to be on special teams. Jeff Wilson got the carries, got the touches once Mitchell went down. But Jeff Wilson, also a guy returning from injury, and did not look good, against that Bears game. It could have been the weather. It could have been whatever the case may be, but he averaged 2.4 yards per carry. The rest of the team, they averaged 5.0. So there's that. I definitely feel as though, with Jordan Mason looming as a guy that keeps being whispered to be the guy, come up and be this year's Elijah Mitchell, but I want to pump the brakes. None of these San Francisco running backs should be in your starting lineup once you pick them up. Like I said, Davis-Price has 87% rostership, probably not available, but if he is, pick him up. Jordan Mason, 30%. Jeff Wilson, 52% as of today. So listen, these guys might be available for you, but none of these guys are seeing my starting lineup. I don't wish for you to start them in your lineup, no matter your situation. I mean, if you lost Mitchell, I'm pretty sure you got him at a good value, and you have two other running backs you could probably just lean on. And what I mean, Mitchell is more so a flex to start with, but I don't know how you guys drafted, how your rosters are ironed out, but I'm just giving you my opinion. But like I said, with Mitchell out for 2 months, it's going to be musical chairs of who the running back's going to be. Is it Mason? Is it Davis-Price? Is it Wilson? Who knows? You just have to wait and see how it plays out. And also in the factor in, you got Trey Lance that's going to take some carries. You got Deebo Samuel, who had 9 carries last week, in week 1 against the Bears. So you have to factor that in as well, that Deebo will be utilized out of that backfield. So again, like I said, if it was up to me, I'm going to wait and see how that all plays out. I'm not in no rush to start a San Francisco 49er. Moving on to the Titans, Dontrell Hilliard, man, he showed up and showed out. A lot of buzz about him this offseason, and it looks to be that he's going to be heavily involved in that passing game. And playing behind Derrick Henry could be a little scary to see on paper, like, oh, this guy's never going to play. But listen, he made an impact with the small opportunities he had. My man finished 3rd in receiving yards, people, among the running backs. He ran 6 routes. That's amazing. And he scored twice. Like, come on. These are fantasy points, guys that we need to target to have on our roster stash as our flex play. If this type of play, if he sees more volume on top of what he just saw, the dude ran 6 routes. I keep saying that. He ran 6 routes and he finished third in receiving yards among running backs. That's nothing to be slept on, people. If he gets an even more workload and put some less heat on Derrick Henry so he can stay healthy the full season, because it's a long season. We got 16 more games. Like, it's going to be a toll on guys like Derrick Henry, especially with him returning from injury. So I think Hiller can be very involved. Like I said, only 59% rostership. He's definitely a guy that needs to be on your radar. You need to go pick him up soon, because he's going to be making an impact week in and week out. And I cannot wait to see it. Next up, listen, Khalil Herbert, man, 47% rostership. A lot of people have shares of him already coming out of the draft, being able to get him in the 12th, 13th, 14th round, very late in the rounds, because David Montgomery is the starting running back for the Bears. But listen, there was a different story being told against San Francisco 49ers. It might have been the weather. Like I said, the field was terrible. Nobody's playing to their max potential because they don't want to get hurt. But listen, man, Monty had 17 rushing attempts for 26 yards for 1.5 yards per carry. That is nasty work, people. I do not want to see that ever again from Monty, but he is still the starting running back. He's going to be getting all those opportunities if they're on the table for him. But Khalil Herbert looked very good, more explosive, hungrier, better vision. And listen, he made the best out of his opportunities. I mean, the dude only had 9 carries. 9 carries, he had 45 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5.0 yards per carry. And listen, another note that we need to make clear right now, that David Montgomery had 0 red zone opportunities. So once they got to scoring opportunities, and once they get into the red zone, that's something to watch for going into week 2, going into week 3. Who's getting these red zone touches? Because David Montgomery had 0. Khalil Herbert took 100% of that running back duty in the red zone, people. So that's like looking like an upside for a guy that can have some touches in the red zone and be potentially a guy that can give us some touchdowns every week. So I'm stashing Khalil Herbert. Like I said, I'm not starting this guy next week just based on what we saw in one game that was bad weather. It could have been a bad matchup. They came out with a win. So listen, we need to see when it's sunny outside, when it's not pouring rain, and the field is just mush. So pump the brakes on throwing Herbert into your starting lineup. I just want to see how this plays out. I'm mental noting. Like I'm picking him up. 47% rostership. He's definitely available out there on your roster. I'm picking him up. I'm stashing him and then just waiting to see how this plays out. Because David Montgomery had zero red zone opportunities. And that's usually where we want to see David Montgomery get the touchdowns, get the goal line carries. And it looks like Herbert took 100% of that duty. And also have to factor in Justin Field taking those rushing attempts inside the 20 as well. So listen, David Montgomery might be trouble. If I'm having some shares of him, if I'm an owner, I'm a little worried right now, just a little bit. Just a tad bit, but you paid value for him. He was in the 5th, 6th round. You were able to get value on him in drafts, so it's not like he's completely tanking out of his ADP. Just wait and see. It's only 1 week. We have a lot more to cover. We got 16 more games, so don't worry about it. So that wraps up the injury report, the injury recap, and the waiver wire pickups. These guys, man, I'm telling you got to go pick them up if you can. They're available on the wire. Please stash them. Like I said, not all these guys need to be thrown into your starting lineups going into week 2, just based on you need to look at the matchups. You have to look at the situation, usage, et cetera, et cetera. Some of these guys are just a wait and see. I'd rather have them now than later and wait to face them in week 6 and they put up 30 points on you. You know what I mean? From your league mix. That's not what I like to do. I like to have guys that are showing life, guys that have opportunity and actually show me something that impressed me to say, hey, this guy's going to make an impact in fantasy. So like I said, pump the brakes on some of these guys. Some of these guys, you could throw them in the lineup if you have them. But like I said, man, just iron out all your situations. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video and leave a comment below on what you guys think. And if I missed anything, any guys that you're seeing that you're questioning on the waiver wire that are possibly available for you, throw them in the comments and I'll get right back to you, man. I'm very good at communication and comments. I got the notifications on. As soon as you pop in the comments, boom, I'm right there for you if you need any help. So I'll see you guys next week for another great episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.